Hello and welcome to this interview, this Get Good at Business highlight with Matt McCarthy. I am your host, Taylor Proctor, and I'm so excited and honored today to be walking you through the I Move method with our expert business owner, Matt. And I am a business coach, and I'm your business coach here to help you get good at business so you can get back into the heart of why you got into business in the first place. And we do that through the I Move method, which stands for intuition, marketing, operations, velocity, and execution. So today I'm joined with Matt, who is a highly skilled strategic business transformation expert, keynote speaker, and founder/president of Questful Consulting. He has spent more than 25 years with organizations of all sizes across nearly a dozen different industries to transform how they work. Not only has he learned how to lead and drive transformation efforts, but he's also learned the common factors amongst these organizations that lead to the need for transformation. Most importantly, he learned how to advise business leaders on how to transform their organizations. Over his career, he has noticed a major paradox. Companies place far more emphasis on making money than actually producing a product or service that is helpful. Yet they waste so much of that money while often producing products and services that have no positive benefit. So he has made it his purpose and his passion to help companies who want to do the opposite. They want to be mission-driven companies, do what they do better so they can have bigger, more positive impact on our world. So Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to be able to dive in and talk all about your business and how you help other businesses.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is going to be great.
Love it. So let's start with your backstory. Was there a pivotal moment or an inspiration that led you to becoming a strategic transformation expert for businesses and essentially founding Questful Consulting?
So it was less of a lightning bolt moment and more of a trickle approach. So I've enjoyed working with companies' strategy for, we'll say, decades. Prior to business school, prior to a lot of that, I was very interested from the top down, as well as the bottom up, and how those two affect each other. So it's been an evolution where I started working with broader areas of organizations, each step getting broader and working from a higher level, where I'm able to see, okay, the connection between IT and marketing, the connection between the strategy and supply chain, depending on what the company is. And ultimately, I founded Questful almost 10 years ago, but turned it into my full-time consulting a few years ago after multiple layoffs with organizations who had been acquired.
I love that. So really, it's kind of that step-by-step comes to fruition and you're like, this is the thing. This is time to do this.
Yeah, it's the 10-year overnight success.
I love it. So let's talk about intuition, right? How do you leverage your intuition in that 10-year overnight success, right? And helping not only guide your business, but also guide the mission-driven companies that you work with?
So that's a wonderful question, because so few people talk about the use of intuition. Even in spite of growing awareness, it's still not talked about in the business world. It's data-driven. But here's the thing. When a company pulls data on something that they think is a problem, they often don't know what to pull. They're looking at a vast data lake of millions, billions of data points. But how do you distill that down into where the issue is or where the solution is? And I think a lot of times that comes to the intuition of the leaders, the people in the front line, those in between, or working as a consultant. I can use that intuition to identify the things that should stand out before even seeing the data. So try and give you an example. You're looking at a company that they're not scaling anymore. They're a mature company and they're feeling a little bit stale. Okay, why is that? It's a lot easier it's easy to pull out a bunch of customer data and say, oh, these are the demographics, these are where we had sales. Okay, but that may not be telling you the full answer.
Right.
Well, the answer could be, look, the company has lost its passion, it's lost its direction, and now it's just a money machine, it's a cash cow, and that's all it's going to be until there's a refresh of what that purpose or mission is. That purpose and mission may spark better employee engagement, may spark better customer engagement, which could result in higher sales, better profitability. It's obviously a fictional example, but I see that happen time and time again.
Right. The intuition is the data that's seen between the data, essentially.
It is. And if you listen to Malcolm Gladwell, it's not that it's some mystical, magical thing that you're pulling out of the universe. It's the years of experience making the subconscious part of the brain pull out those aspects of what is really there before you even know what you're looking at.
Yeah. Seeing that full picture without having the full picture.
Right.
I love that. So let's talk about marketing, right? What strategies have you found to be most effective in spreading the word and connecting with these mission-driven companies through your own company?
So that's a good question. Some tactics that I'm using are more the means of communicating the issue and communicating the needed change. And I'm finding that companies that are interested in or who are already mission-driven companies, I'm finding that they are seeking me out instead of me having to market, self-promote, you know. So by communicating in venues like this, going on a podcast and sharing, look, we all need to be running mission-driven companies. Having a cash cow for the sake of cash, especially if we're producing products and services that aren't positively beneficial,
okay,
it's not worthwhile. But if we're a mission-driven company, who understands us? And by communicating about that in a podcast or in an article, something like that, I do find that companies are coming to me.
I love that. So there's a lot of operational backend when it comes to transformation, especially in companies that are looking to be more purpose driven. What operational measures have you implemented or found helpful when you're guiding these companies through transformation?
So that's really going to depend on the type of company.
Sure.
One example is working with a service company. It's often less the operational metrics and more the operational visibility as a whole. It's kind of like stepping back into the strategy or stepping back into the intuition. What is your customer experiencing? I'll give you an example. A company that I worked with, they were going through what they might have called a digital transformation, but missing a lot of the marks. And where they were finding they were getting friction is customers were not understanding when their technician was going to be coming out to see them. And that gave them some uncertainty. It drove additional calls. Lack of faith in the company may have had some customers exodus and shift over to other providers. So that affects profitability. It affects top line revenue. By looking at the customer journey, instead of looking at just the metrics, we were looking at, okay, the customer reports an issue. A technician is dispatched. Technician goes to the site. Well, in that amount of time, we don't know. That is 15 minutes. That is 5 days. We don't know what that is. More importantly, the customer doesn't know what that is. So by looking at the customer's lack of visibility, created means of giving them visibility in an automated fashion. So one of these would be when the technician is 15 minutes away, GPS is picking up their app and sending a quick text to the customer. Your technician should be there in about 15 minutes. When they're assigned, customers getting the name and the picture of the technician. All these little things are giving the customer more faith. That's going to increase revenue in the end. And it's going to cut down on the number of times they're calling in to figure out where their technician is. Less
I think that's
cost.
incredible. Yeah. And I think that really ties into like our next area here, which is obviously the landscape of business is rapidly changing to allow for technologies like, hey, automation, this person's been assigned, send their picture and their name to this customer so that they already are building that connection with our technicians, right? So what other strategies have you employed to maintain and accelerate the velocity in this changing landscape for Questful Consulting?
So for Questful, we can be remarkably old school, and it's okay.
Okay.
Because really we're here as advisors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wanting advice in a very high-tech scalable world, you can contact ChatGPT, and that's fine. But if you want the advice of somebody with experience, you want to be able to spend time in a non-scalable manner with a person who has the experience to work through the issues with you. But on the other hand, how am I seeing that for customers? I think there are a lot of touch points that take place both internally in the process and externally with customers that we're getting more and more opportunity to automate. I'm still on the fence in terms of how well AI is serving customers. But even if it's not AI, there are still ways of automating messages that go out to a customer that will be done better than a human in a live environment. It takes away a lot of the error rate. And from the human perspective, having those routine steps taken away from your work allows you to focus more on the creative and more complex aspects of your role.
Very cool. I love it. So what's one major initiative that you're focusing on for Questful, let's say this quarter, and how are you executing on that vision for the future?
So this will probably go a different direction than you're expecting, but actually publishing a book.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So when I say publishing, it's in first draft. So
Right.
to be fair, it won't be done first quarter, but it's the big initiative right now. The theme of the book is about measuring your mission and finding success through measuring your mission, with the bottom line being what gets measured gets attention, what gets attention gets done. And if you're focusing all of your attention on profitability and revenue metrics, yeah, you'll hit those. But if you're truly trying to accomplish something good in the world, create metrics around that. Make those the focus of your business. Realize that you still have to have profitability to stay in business and serve that good. But by focusing on the mission-driven metrics, you're going to have a lot more positive impact in the world.
So good. And I think that's, I love that when we were talking about marketing, you're like, yeah, it's a little bit more old school. It is that PR, it is going out on podcasts and doing interviews and articles. And so we see that here, even with your major initiative, right? Focusing on a book and building those relationships, that credibility, that authority, helping build those mission-driven businesses through being an author. So congratulations. That's amazing and super exciting.
Well, thank you. And to be fair, it does take a lot of work from the human perspective, but I think it's going to have a lot more meat to it.
Agreed.
I think what you can produce in a highly scalable manner, even content, and like I said, ChatGPT or just AI generation, you can create a book in 20 minutes. But there's a lot of emptiness to it. It's going to miss points. It's going to, people are not going to resonate with it, I think, from an intuition perspective. people can still tell this is not human intelligence.
Well,
And I think that turns people off a little bit.
there's a lot to be said too. At the beginning of the year, I mentioned here in the Facebook group, actually, I went live and was talking about how I believe 2024 is the year of the personal brand, because there is such an influx of automation and such an influx of AI, that building your personal brand and using those to complement what you're doing is the way to go, because everyone seems to be replacing those two things with themselves, and that human touch is missing. And ultimately, in the end, humans are the ones doing business together. And so having that emphasis on building those connections and that personal brand and the book and being the author and the articles and the podcasts allow you to have those connections and move through in your marketing and be supplemented and complemented by the automation, like you had mentioned, and the AI, but it's not a replacement. And I think that we're going to see a big shift. My predictions, right? I think we're going to see a big shift where you're going to have so much AI and automation that people are like, I really just want to talk to a real person. And that's where people who have built the personal brand are like, here I am. It's not as scalable, but you get a real person and we can scale your business together and really transform everything.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of caution needed. Finding the reason you're scaling. If you're scaling to just do more, have more, get more, there's got to be more value to it than that.
That's that mission-driven aspect.
Right. It's doing good. It's having relationship. It's working on positive things together. And that's harder to scale, but it's worth it.
And it has more longevity, let's be honest, right?
Agreed.
You can scale, or you can scale over time and have a longevity piece that most businesses don't have. So
yes.
So cool. I love that. Well, and you have a lot of information available for our listeners. Where could they go to learn more about you, about being mission-driven businesses, and maybe connect with you on a deeper level?
Yeah, definitely. You can go to questful.life, LIFE/business, and that's our business page. And I would definitely encourage you to fill that out and just make contact with me. I don't put you on some daily mailing list or something like that, but in my old school approach, I do like to make those connections with you, and that's the best way to get started. I'm also expanding the page and the pages behind it, so it's going to grow, so keep returning back. But that's the best place to go.
I love it. And I don't think you have an old school approach. I think you have a personable approach, which again, 2024, in my opinion, that is going to be the new approach, is be more personable because of so much other things coming on. So I love it. Matt,
I may change your mind. Fountain pen, paper. I do use an old school approach.
Well, I don't know. Studies have been shown that taking handwritten notes makes retention and everything better. So, I mean, really, how often is something new coming in and actually revolutionizing things? It's always come back to what works best for you as a business owner and as a person. And I love that. That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. For those who are watching and listening, check out the link in the description of this video to get the access to Matt's site and be able to fill out that form and be able to connect with him. And be sure to continue to tune in throughout the weeks. We will have more amazing business highlights just like this one coming to you. So thanks so much for joining, everyone, and stay tuned.